through that wall, and I say that when I say run through the wall, test your limits. Like when practice is when you test things out. That's when you test your limits. You don't get in the game and run your fastest. You need to know how fast you can go in practice. So there are gonna be different avenues and different spots for you to be able to test your limits. So that has to be a exercise that you do willingly and often. You have to test your limits. If you always stop at that wall, then how will you know? How will you know what would have happened if you ran into the wall? If you always stop. I get sometimes some things are too daunting at some points in our life. But that don't mean that you can't go back to it. But if you always stop at that wall, at that first piece of adversity, if you always stop, then how will you know? Like, are you comfortable dying not knowing? Just not knowing. That's not going to kill you, not knowing what if I just that one time. Sometimes you know what that is, the second wall is? It's beating a nigga ass. Now, that don't always have to be physical, but sometimes you got to stick up for yourself. You in situations where you got a boss or you got somebody who feel like it's a power dynamic, but you built to endure. You already know what you can manufacture. You need to test your limits. Sometimes that's going back at somebody and sticking up for yourself. Oh, that wasn't a wall at all. I went through that, balls and all. That wasn't a wall at all. But you got to test your limits. If you always cower at that point, you think, oh, I guess that's just how it is. That's how the power dynamic is. I'll always be on this side of the power dynamic because that's how somebody said it was. No, what did the manufacturers say? And you ain't going to know till you put the pedal to the metal. You got to test your limits. If you always stop, you will never know. Just that alone should push you through some doors of continuing to do some things. Just not knowing. I have to know what would happen if I put that effort forward when I got to that wall. What would happen when that second wind was summoned by my emptying tank because I went so hard to get to that wall, but I'm running so hard because I want to run through that wall. What's going to happen when I get to that second wind? I can't die not knowing that. Yeah, like, don't you want to know how high you can soar? Like, sometimes it's scary if you get that initial look without doing none of the work. But if you didn't put in some of the work, you already halfway there. If you're trying to get to yourself to the point where you run a 5K and sometimes you're struggling during your 3K run, when you advance, say what you want to say about getting that 5K, you already halfway there. All right, sometime during your 3K run, you having some struggle. You already halfway there. So when you look, now it might not be as scary because you halfway there. But if you coming from the bottom of the mountain and you just getting that peak from the top, you're not even adjusted. You're not haven't even got a chance to adjust to the oxygen. You know, at different points in the plane where you feel your equilibrium and you feel your body, you just feel everything on different points when it's ascending and descending. Our body wouldn't be able to take going from this to that. That's why those rockets that they have, those spaceships, is special technology that got to go into it because your body not supposed to be able to go from that to that. It's not supposed to be able to. You got to be able to go halfway up the mountain to know what that air feels like. That air up there, you got to know what it feels like. You got to be close to it. Taste the air. You got to be close to it, or anything else. It might spook you off that cliff that you got to jump off of. You're supposed to jump off the cliff down there to where your success is. But if you ain't scaled the mountain, then you ain't never been through nothing. But if you already scaled the mountain and look down, then once you get to the cliff, you know that's the same distance that you just climbed the mountain. But if you ain't climbed the mountain or came halfway up the mountain, then that distance is going to be too much for you. But don't you want to know how high you can soar? Don't you just want to know? Like as kids, we used to do this thing. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. You take a step, then you jump, and you try to slap hands, and you see who can jump the highest. I don't know what the name of that game was, but if you came from a town or a city that played basketball, niggas want to know like how high could you jump? Oh, how did you? No. You jumped too soon. Whatever it was, but it's all right. 1, 2, 3. Don't you want to know how high you can soar? And then it turned into, hey, can you smack glass? And then it was, can you grab rim? I was out of it. By the time it got to that, can you grab rim? I was out of it. But don't you want to know how high you can soar? Don't you want to just know?
Man, about your word, always keep that shit a buck. And if a nigga test your bloodline, stand for yours. The only thing that matters in this world, who wanted more luck. Never not believed in me, that's just how I'm cut. Be a man about your word, always keep that shit a buck. And if a nigga test your bloodline, stand for yours. The only thing that matters in this world, who wants it more, yeah.